All right, welcome back to the channel. Terence Crawford shoots a little shot at Vasily Lomachenko for his franchise championship, makes an excellent point. I'm going to talk about that in the disservice that the WBC is doing to Vasily Lomachenko, as highlighted by Terence Crawford's statement. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, I want to say thank you to everybody in my Patreon community. There'll be another Patreon video up today. Also, thank you so much to everybody in the live stream community that supported OG Boxing Talk this weekend with a new co-host, Trap House Boxing, along with KQKC, Curtis Anderson, and the Great Blood Boxing. Go check out his documentaries on his channel. All right, let's get into this. First, this information is as of October 28th, 2019. And we are talking about something that Terence Crawford said about Vasily Lomachenko. What he said was, when asked about this franchise champion, he says, "I don't mess with no WBC franchise belt. I don't mess with no WBA regular belt or super belt. There's only one champion in the weight, and that's it. Ain't no franchise, no silver, none of that. I only go by the actual champion." I like what he has to say. There's some holes in that we'll talk about, but that's kind of a shot at Vasily Lomachenko. Obviously, he's being asked about Vasily Lomachenko. Let me give you a little bit background and then we can talk about what we think about that, man. You definitely please put your comments in the comment section at the end of the video. Okay, so the WBC, as we know, gave, if you don't know, let me explain it to you. The WBC gave Vasily Lomachenko what they're called a franchise championship. He was the WBA champion when he beat Luke Campbell for a vacant belt, a belt that was vacated by Mikey Garcia. Once Devin Haney became the mandatory by winning his fight, Vasily Lomachenko would have had to defend that WBC title against Devin Haney. But what the WBC did was they removed Vasily Lomachenko from that championship and gave him a designation called franchise champion, and then gave the actual title to Devin Haney. Now, the franchise champion, a lot of people seem confused about what the franchise champion is. And so let me just give you a couple seconds, really short definition of what it is or explanation of what it is. The franchise champion is somebody that will walk into the ring with the WBC franchise belt, but other than that, does not have to fight mandatories. He doesn't have to fight at the weight class. It's not a championship that can be won off of him. And if he retires, he then comes in as another type of champion called champion emeritus. The champion emeritus is somebody that can fight at any time he wants to come back, will be eligible to get an immediate shot at the title. So it's a designation. It's not really a championship that you can earn. Now, this was also done for Canelo Alvarez under the same set of circumstances. Canelo Alvarez had a mandatory named Jamal Charlo. Canelo Alvarez, from everything that I can see out there, did not want to fight Jamal Charlo. If Canelo wanted to fight Jamal Charlo, Canelo would fight Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo would take that fight. Pretty much Canelo Alvarez can fight whoever he wants at 160 pounds. Everybody's going to take the fight because there's a lot of money in it for him. But he didn't want to fight Jamal Charlo. And so Jamal, instead of having to strip Canelo Alvarez from the WBC title, the WBC elevated him to this franchise champion. Now, as this relates to Vasily Lomachenko and Terence Crawford, and why I think this is a shot at Lomachenko, besides the obvious fact that he was answering a question about Lomachenko, Lomachenko cannot be the undisputed 135-pound champion of the world. There's a difference between a unified champion and an undisputed champion. A unified champion has one or more belts. Could have one belt, two belts, or three belts. A unified champion has all four of what is considered the major championship belts in boxing. The WBA, the WBO, the IBF, and the one that we're speaking about in this video, the WBC. Terence Crawford, at the time that he was, at the time he left the 140-pound division, for a short period of time, he was the unified, he was the undisputed champion at 140 pounds. He held all of the belts that I just mentioned at the same time. The only other current active fighter that was a unified champion is Alexander Usyk, who got that distinction for fight because all of the belts were on the line for the cruiserweight division. So there's also been, there used to be a pretty decent debate about who the pound for pound best fighter in the world is. There used to be a good debate going on about it. But it seems as if the mainstream media has gotten firmly behind Vasily Lomachenko in that regard, and almost all of them consider him to be the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world. The network that airs Terence Crawford's fights says Vasily Lomachenko is the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. Ring Magazine says Vasily Lomachenko is the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. And now I give my thoughts on what that means to a lot of other videos, but for the most part, man, it's a marketing distinction that just gives you a little extra cachet when you're trying to sell somebody's fight, or pride, I guess, for a boxer that walks around in the midst of other boxers, where the boxers say, yeah, man, that's the best fighter in the world right there. All right. Pound for pound, skill for skill, that's the best fighter in the world right there. One of the accolades that so for me solidified that for Terence Crawford was the fact that he's the undisputed champion of the world. Now, he's won belts in multiple weight divisions, 135, 140, 147 pounds, and he was the undisputed champion at 140 pounds. That was something that looked like Lomachenko was in line to do. And this is where I say this does a tremendous disservice to Vasily Lomachenko. Because although I am not a fan of the media treatment of Vasily Lomachenko, I think that Vasily Lomachenko has got to be the biggest silver spoon fed boxer in modern day history. Nobody else would even get a shot at a championship belt in their second fight. People point to things like that and say, well, look how fast he won a championship. I always point people to this. The ability to get a championship fight for many fighters is a privilege that comes along with signing with certain promoters. There's no way that somebody could have fought and earned their way to a championship fight unless they were privileged by a promoter and privileged by a sanctioning body to allow that. I know that Vasily Lomachenko was an amateur and won 2 Olympic gold medals in the amateurs, but the strict fact of the matter is that amateurs are the amateurs. The amateurs are not the pros. So that, along with just going over people who've done just as much in their career, whose competition level has been just as high, if not higher, and to announce him as the pound for pound guy when he's actually accomplished less than a guy like Terence Crawford has, I've never liked that. I do not like that. I do believe he's one of the best fighters in the world. He's no soft touch whatsoever. Even the Devin Haney situation, although I think Devin Haney has every possibility of beating Vasily Lomachenko, and I think Vasily Lomachenko knows that, my issue with Vasily Lomachenko is the media treatment of him. And now it's gone beyond the media treatment of him, the exaggeration of his accomplishments, saying things like, we've never seen anybody change angles before. We've never seen a southpaw that switches, get out of here. We've seen all of that before. Regardless, the problem now, it's doubled down on that with this protection belt. This is essentially the WBC is just protecting Vasily Lomachenko from having to fight a mandatory and saying, please, will you please wear our belt into the ring? Please wear this meaningless belt that nobody else can win into the ring with you. Just if you'll just carry it in. And that's a disservice to Vasily Lomachenko because it makes him look soft. It makes him look like he's being protected, and that's not even necessary. So, and Terence Crawford pointing that out, saying Terence Crawford is not going to benefit from that. Terence, it's super belts, regular belts. And by the way, Vasily Lomachenko also owns the WBA super belt. So, now there's some holes in Terence Crawford thing because then it says, hey, Terence, then, who's the champion in 147? Maybe you're not the champion at 47. There is no champion at 147. Maybe there is no champion unless that champion's undisputed. But that's going to be really hard. That's going to be a real hard standard to bear in boxing because of the prevalence of all these belts and the hesitancy to make not unification fights, but undisputed fights. There's been a lot of unification fights, but very few undisputed. Anyway, it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.